The Python Show.
Hello, and welcome to the Python Show podcast with Mike Driscoll. Today, I have the honor of having Akshay join me on this podcast. Akshay is a fellow content creator on Twitter. He talks about data science, machine learning, and Python. And he also works for the TomTom company. And I just thought it'd be fun to have him on here and we'll just talk about all those different things. So, Akshay, why don't you just tell us about yourself and how you got into tech and why you might have ended up using Python?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, Mike, for having me here. Like you said that I work full time as a lead data scientist at TomTom, and you can say in my free time every day I try to read and write, and then try to share my knowledge on Twitter. So mainly I write
Mm-hmm.
uh, stuff around, you can say, Python, machine learning, and data science. If I talk about like how I moved into tech or how I started using Python, so it goes back to 2016. So I started as an intern with Here Technologies, and so I had a background in electrical electronics engineering and mathematics. And in 2016, I started as an intern, and
Mm-hmm.
there I was fortunate to have a great mentor, and they had a really cool project. They were building something for BMW. So here was basically a consortium, was owned by a consortium of Audi, BMW, and Daimler. And my internship project was on something that it was a computer vision and deep learning based project, and we were building something for BMW. And finally, what happened was. So back then, machine learning, deep learning, and all these things were new, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so in 2016, across the world and especially in India, there were not a lot of resources to learn about it. So that's where I got some guidance. So I started with this course by Andrew Ang, this machine learning course. So this is something that I always recommend to someone when he comes to me, like, how do I start with ML, right?
Yeah.
So I had, you can say, not a lot, but some knowledge of Python back then as well, like at least to read and write. And
Mm-hmm.
another thing I did was, so there was this course from Stanford by Andre Karpathy. So he was the creator of CS2319, and back then I think he was teaching it as well. So these were the two courses I did. I had knowledge of Python, and fortunately, I was fortunate to get a great project. And finally, this internship project, I was able to do a patent over it as well. And
Awesome.
yeah, so this is how it ended, and yeah, here we are. Like, this is how I moved into tech world and started my journey.
Yeah. So, do you have like an educational background in data science or computer science? Or I'm just kind of curious.
So right, so uh, so you can say, like, I was in my college from 2012 to 2017, and at that time there were not a lot of courses with that the degrees did not have this formal name of, like, say, a master's in data science or something like that. But I have a background in mathematics, and that is pretty much, you can say, relevant to uh, a lot of things
Mm,
that we do with machine learning and all. But having said that, I mean, that is not something, that's not a necessary condition to move into this field. I think today there are a lot of good resources to get started, and people, like an industry, they mainly care about if you have the right set of skills and if you can solve these problems. So then they would easily overlook your degrees and all.
yeah,
But
that
yeah,
makes sense.
this relevant background did help me to get a quick start.
Yeah, cool. That's amazing because personally, I'd like to get into data science, but I don't feel like I have enough mathematical background sometimes to get into the field. But anyway, that's not here nor there. But
Right, right.
so, how
But
do you?
yeah, we can talk about it maybe in some of the next questions, maybe. But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Let's. Okay, yeah, over to you.
yeah. Don't worry about it. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on and talk about how you use Python in data science. I mean, I'm assuming you use Python. Are there any other
Definitely,
languages besides it?
definitely. So I would say, like, Python is the language that the entire data science community speaks, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has a very Python has a very large, you can say, community. People contribute to open source a lot, and there are a lot of open sourced and very famous frameworks like deep learning and ML frameworks, right? So, and I would not say they're written in Python, but actually they are Python-based frameworks, right? So people use
Yep.
them a lot.
Yep.
You might have heard of TensorFlow and PyTorch, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
there is a sea of open source libraries for anything that you want to do in maybe not only machine learning, but anything that you want to do, you would get a library in Python. So.
Yeah.
The most powerful aspect of Python is that they have a very large active community. Every day, people contribute to open source. So that is the reason that I believe that Python is the you can say the language that data science community speaks, and it is going to stay like this for a considerable amount of time. But there are a few other, you can say, good languages coming in, and they are trying to give competition. One is Julia, and another one is
Mm-hmm.
like I think Mojo Modular is one thing that I heard quite a lot recently, but
Okay.
uh, it's very hard to replace Python with anything given the large amount of community that it already has.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm always seeing more and more and more, packages coming out with Python wrappers around them, or they're completely written in Python for data
Right?
science and machine learning. Although there is a lot that's written in C++ and then wrapped in Python just so it's fast.
Exactly. That's exactly happens. Like a lot of frameworks are written in other languages and wrapped around so that people can interface it by using Python. So that's there.
Yeah, I think Rust is becoming a more popular way to get
Yeah,
fast code
exactly,
and more
exactly.
interoperability. Yep, yep.
I missed Rust. Yeah, that's also there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I was going to touch on this topic anyway, but in your opinion, could a software developer transition to data science without having to go back to school?
Right.
So
Data. No, no. I totally get your point.
okay, cool.
So when we talk about data science, it also has a lot of different roles, right?
Mhm.
Uh, so if you want to be, if you want to do proper research, then I would say that you can do all. Basically, you can move into any of these roles without having a formal degree. That is there. The only thing that you need
Yeah.
is you have to be consistently putting effort and try to learn things. Say if you want to move into research role, right? Then you would have to grind over everything. Like you have to learn mathematics, statistics. Then you have to get
Mhm.
very good at these ML frameworks and doing coding, debugging, and you have to have all these skills like training models and everything, right? So that is there. But so basically, that is usually a research scientist or a data scientist do. But apart from that, also
Mhm.
there are a lot of great roles those roles are those skills and those roles are like in very high in demand, like a machine learning engineer, right? Or an MLOps engineer. So machine learning engineer is someone like who has the knowledge of software development as well as he know a significant amount of stuff that is related to ML, like how do you train models, how do ML systems behave,
Yeah.
what are the important things that one needs to consider when you want to scale it. But as the industry is evolving and as the data science and AI field is evolving, people have realized that these engineering fundamentals are essential to it, and that is why you must have heard of this field, machine learning operations. So this is something that
Mhm.
brings your software engineering fundamentals and your ML knowledge under one umbrella, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
and this is something that is necessary for you to create value out of your ML models or ML products that you build, so that you can create a service out of it so that people can use it and it creates value. So their software engineering becomes very important. So today I would
Yeah.
say, like, if you are good at coding and you have a strong foundation in software engineering, then for you it's very easy today to move into data science. That's not a big deal, and you would be your skill set would be very
Yeah,
important.
that makes sense. Yeah, I have a friend who's in he's a data engineer, and he was telling me that a lot of people think that to be a data scientist you have to be writing the models yourself,
No,
and he's like most people don't get to write the models. They understand how they work, they understand how to feed them and use them correctly, but they don't actually write like new models every
exactly,
day.
exactly. That is absolutely right. I mean,
Yeah.
even if you are capable of writing a new model, so when you are working for an enterprise, and when you have to solve a certain problem in a given amount of time, if you start writing everything from scratch, you won't be able to achieve your goals, right?
Mhm.
So if something, why reinvent the wheel, right? So if something is already available and you know like how it works, how do you tweak things, how does it behave, then just use it,
Yeah.
right? So that's
Yep.
pretty
Yep.
much same for software development as well, and that is same for data science as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it gets an unfair people just think, well, everyone's inventing all these new machine learning
No, 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 that's not true.
applications, so they must be creating all these new LLMs or all these new, models underneath, and it's just not happening that way. I just
No, 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 it's not happening like that.
Yeah. Nobody wants to invent the wheel every time they want to
Exactly.
do
That's
something.
that's something that you should not do.
So, what kind of machine learning do you do personally?
Right. So I like I said that I work for a company that builds maps, right?
Mhm.
And we also provide this ADAS functionalities, right? Driver assistance system for some advanced vehicles, you can say, like lane keeping and all. So basically, we have to build maps, and we have to build a very high quality map that is at times it has sub-meter precision. Like if we say that something, a signboard is present at this location or at this latitude and longitude, then we basically guarantee that you would find it within, you can say, 1 meter of what we are saying, right? So that is what the kind of accuracy you can say that we
Okay.
offer to our customers. And since we are talking about making maps, so there is a line by TomTom. So TomTom, I think they have this on their Twitter handle as well. It takes a world to map the entire world, right?
Mhm.
So everything we do, we have to do it at scale, right? If we build
Yes.
something, we have to run it across states, we have to run it across countries, and then we have to run it across the entire globe, wherever our customer needs the data. So so my role, if you would ask me, like what I do as a data scientist, so the primary, basically the goal that is assigned to a data scientist. So everyone does. So the ultimate goal is to automate the map making process, right? So you
Mhm.
have to cover the entire world, and you have to make sure that your map is very much fresh, right? So people can rely on it. And for this, we use a lot of different sources. So we have data coming from images. We have so
Hmm.
the images can be your street level imagery that are taken from cameras mounted on a car or some dash cams as well.
Mhm.
And then we also have data coming from satellite imagery, satellite or aerial, like overhead imagery. And
Yep.
so so when I say images, so this is one kind of data, that is images. And then we also get a lot of data from GPS traces. So there are a lot of vendors that provide us with GPS traces. And so this is the reason. So why I'm talking about different sources is because during my time while working in a map making company, I had opportunity to work on classical machine learning, like tabular data.
Mhm.
Then I also got opportunity, since we were working with images. We got this opportunity to work on computer vision as well. So there it involves classical CV techniques as well, along with deep
Mhm.
learning. And then there are a lot of vendors that provide us. So there are two things. So you have to create the entire road network for this world. You have to provide all the attributes of it, and along with it, you also need to put the information regarding all the places in this world, right? So
Yeah.
then we also get a lot of text data in form of text from a lot of vendors. So there you also get opportunity to work with natural language processing as well. So these, because of the diversity of the problems that we have in map making, uh, it is challenging, but it's also good that you get to work on a diverse set of problems.
Yeah. That sounds really cool. Is there like a particular set of packages, like open source packages you guys like to use?
Definitely. Specific. So first I'll talk about the ML or deep learning packages. So definitely scikit-learn is there. Everyone, and we also
Okay.
use it. And then I started with TensorFlow as a deep learning framework. Then recently,
Mm-hmm.
I would not say recently, like for 2 or 3 years now, I have moved to PyTorch as well. So I try to use both depending on where I'm getting good model, like good stuff. Wherever I find good stuff, whether it's implemented in TensorFlow or PyTorch, I try to look for that. So these
Yeah.
are the two. These are the three main things that I'm using. But apart from that, yeah, for data analysis and all these things, pandas is always there. So we use that as well. And
Yeah.
then there are some libraries that are specific to maps. So for instead of using your normal pandas, we also use GeoPandas. It offers certain
Okay.
functionality when you are dealing with latitude, longitude, and spherical coordinate system. So that is there, and then there are certain other libraries specific to the GIS domain. So we work with them as well,
Yeah. I wondered if you guys used
and
some
everything is
GIS
in
software.
Python. Yeah, and
Yeah.
everything is in Python. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to work for a local government, and they were just starting to use Python around some GIS packages, and it was really cool to see these closed source programs. They still had
Mhm.
wrappers for Python, so you could still interact with them.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah.
All right. So I was just wondering if you could explain LLMs to me in layman's terms, because I hear that term all the time, and I'm not sure I completely understand it.
Okay, okay. So I think so. First, I'm not sure if this is the best way to start a very basic definition, but yeah. So LLM
Mm-hmm.
stands for a large language model, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we try to explain it in very simple terms, you can so basically you can think of it like a parrot, right? So we have parrot and we just try to teach it very simple stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
we teach it how to greet, right? It would again. So when we say hello, it would say hello, right? We have seen this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then we can ask its name. Then it will tell us its name, right? So these things are
Yeah.
there. Now think of it like so if you're able to teach this parrot at scale, right? You make it learn everything about all the data that is present on internet, right? You
Mm-hmm.
tell it a lot of all the stories or all the knowledge that is present in a lot of books, right? Then you tell it about
Yes.
movies, sports, and everything that has happened, right? And then you let's say that this parrot is smart enough that it is able to grasp all the knowledge that we provided it, and then when we try to interact with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just starts talking like a human, right? And it has access to this sea of knowledge. I would not say that it has access to this sea of knowledge, but it somehow has memorized all this stuff, right? It is aware
Yeah.
of everything that has happened, like all the knowledge that we provided it. And on the basis of that, when we try to ask it questions, it is giving very human like answers, right? So that's why
Mm-hmm.
we call it a language model. So it tries to mimic how we humans interact with each other using a language, right? So that is there.
Okay.
So in this analogy, this parrot is a large language model. It's a language model, right? So it's a ML model. So we call it large because of two reasons: that it has a lot of parameters, like a lot of weights that we need to train. So basically, weights
Okay.
are a bunch of numbers, right? That we somehow tune, and then it is trained on a very large corpus of data set, like the data set at the scale of internet, right? Everything on internet, everything that is there in books, and then there is some proprietary information as well that it is trained on. So basically, it is a very smart person that knows everything, you can say.
Okay. Interesting. I think that's a pretty good explanation of of how they work.
Yeah.
Even if they, even though I've noticed that while it thinks it knows everything, it's wrong as often as not. It seems like, at least with the questions I've been asking it.
Right, right, right. So what happens is like so I would not want to go into a lot of details, but so you can say so if we break things down to first principles, so it is sort of, you can think of, it is trying to predict the next word. So given a
Hmm.
certain number of amount of words or certain context, it tries to predict that what should come next, right? So once
Yeah.
it gets the next word, it again includes it into its context, and then on the basis of it, it tries to predict the next word. So this is what we call as conditional probability. Like given that B has happened, what is the probability that A would occur, right? What is the
Yes.
probability that this word is going to be next? So this is
Yeah.
how the language generation process works. Now it is trained on a very very large amount of data, right? So it gets very
Hmm.
smart at predicting the right word,
Yes.
right? So and when we, so let's say when we try to chat with when we try to provide a prompt to chat GPT. So this is basically a context that, or say a certain condition that we are giving it, right? This is our
Hmm.
prompt, and then on the basis of that, it tries to predict what are going to be the next words. And as it
Okay.
generates the next word, it tries to include it into this, and then on the basis of it, again tries to predict the next word. So it is essentially it's the next word prediction problem, but somehow you can say using certain techniques like fine tuning and all those things, it is able to do it in a very good manner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
that's it.
you definitely get impressive results with it. And if you once you've learned how to ask it a question, you can get really good results. But
Exactly. Yeah,
it just takes practice.
it takes practice. Yeah.
So, I see you're always posting about LLMs and related technologies. Could you give some practical examples to our listeners of how you might use an LLM?
Yeah, right, right. So if I think I don't need to tell anyone like what chat GPT is, right? And what kind of stuff it can do. Like we already
Mhm.
discussed that a language model is a very smart person, you can say, and it is aware of
Mhm.
everything it has been told to it, right? That it has been
Yeah.
trained on. So,
Yep.
whether you are a software engineer, whether you are a writer, or whether you are, say, a product guy, everyone can use it, right? So you can use it
Mhm.
as an assistant. You can use it as sort of a pair programmer, you can say, right? So, so apart from writing, I think we coders can use it to write a lot of boilerplate stuff, right? So instead of
Yeah.
writing from our own, so that can be done. And like you said, that if you get smart at conditioning it, right? If you get smart at prompting it, then it is a very very good tool to learn about something new, right? You just start with a very basic question. Okay, this is something that I want to learn about, right?
Yes.
Then you can ask it. Okay, so it would first it will try to give a very basic definition and all. Then you can ask it. Okay, what are the main components? Say I want to learn about LangChain. It is something very famous. Maybe we can talk about it later as well. So then
Yeah.
you can first, it will tell us that what exactly is LangChain, right? Then we can ask it what are different modules in LangChain, right? Then it will list all
Mhm.
the modules and give a brief description of each of them. Then I can then we can ask it to go into detail of the things. So this is how, if you get smart at prompting it or conditioning it, then LLM can be a very good tool to learn something new. So that is there.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep seeing these new uses for it. I really like the idea of like taking a picture of of what's in your refrigerator and having it come up with recipes for you.
Right, right,
Or
right. Yeah, that is
you know,
also.
I,
I think that is something that I saw. But so if since you have brought up this question, so I would say in near future, like the LLMs would, like the Chat GPT and all these things are going to get multimodal. When I say multimodal, it means that as of now, the input that we are giving to Chat GPT or this language model are in form of text, right? So
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow, there are going to be APIs, or there are going to be ways that you can give it text and you can also give it image. Like you can just click a photo from refrigerator and provide it to ChatGPT, right? And it would come
Yeah.
up with a lot of recipes. So that is certainly doable. Yeah.
Yeah. A friend of mine is a marketer, and he was using it to do like analysis of his competitors, for example, and giving him ideas, for like advertising campaign. And from a technical standpoint, I'm like using it to help me learn like Pandas or PyTorch or whatever. But marketers are using it for completely different stuff that I don't even think about, and
Okay.
businessmen are using it for lots of different topics. So it's just really cool to see the wide variety of use cases uh, for
Yeah.
LLMs.
That's true. And
Anyway,
I would like to add one more thing. Like in beginning, when
sure.
we started with like, if someone who has a background in software engineering, right, and particularly in
Hmm.
Python, can he move to machine learning? Can he move to this field of ML and AI? So
Hmm.
so if someone starts today, right? So I would suggest them that so if they already know Python, then I would suggest them then they should learn LangChain, right? So LangChain
Hmm.
is something that I'm currently exploring, and every time when I work with, it just fascinates me. So basically, the large language models today, since they are very large, right, and so it's not possible to train them or do inference over them on consumer hardwares, right, or
Yes.
local machines and all. So we cannot run it here. So right now, all the large language models, be it GPT-4 from OpenAI, or be it Bard from Google, right? Google Bard is also there.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
all these things are developed by large enterprises who have a lot of money and access to a lot of data. And now they provide. Now we can access the capabilities of these large models using APIs, right? So if you know
Hmm.
Python, and if you know how to call an API, like how exactly you can programmatically interact with that, that's easy, right? That's not a big deal. Now
Yes.
you can think of so when it comes to building large AI application that involves LLMs, so LangChain is the go-to tool for it. Now you can think of it as an orchestration tool for building a LLM-based system, right? So it
Okay.
provides a very easy interface to all these models, right? So I would definitely
Hmm.
suggest you to check it out. And then after that, it has certain other capabilities. So we call it LangChain because so if you have a very complex task, and if you know that you can break it into multiple subtasks, then you can chain them together. So first you
Okay.
break it down to task one and let the LLM solve it. Then the output of task one is fed to task two. Then again the LLM solves
Mm.
it. So LangChain help you to chain it up, like a complex task
Yep.
broken down to multiple simpler tasks. And another thing it has is we call it agents, right? So these agents are, you can say, a very smart, you can say, a human-like agent sitting at the middle of these tasks, and on the basis of what is the output of a particular task, on the basis of that, the agent can decide that how exactly do I need to start the next task in the chain, right?
Yeah.
So that's a very smart element that is added to it. So
Yep.
that makes this this framework very powerful, and I really like it. So if someone who has knowledge of Python and he's a software developer, I would definitely recommend them to uh, try this out.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm interested, so I'll have to
Definitely,
go
yeah,
look that up.
yeah, you can definitely check it out.
Cool. So let's change the subject really quick before we wrap up, and
Sure.
we'll talk about your Twitter experience, because you're like one of my friends on Twitter, and we started like hanging out. We started like chit chatting. I think about a year ago, and we've just talked back and forth,
That's
and I've noticed that
that's true.
you've been growing really, really fast, and I'm just curious,
Right, right.
as another, as other, there's lots of content creators out there, and I'm sure they're like, how do I grow fast like I do or like you do? I just wonder if you could share any of your strategies.
True, true. Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure that I would be able to. There is a secret to it, or I would be able to list something new. But before that, like I would I'm really grateful that you helped me kickstart this journey. I started by answering
Hmm.
those quiz of yours. So again, you are one of my favorite content creators. Like when I
Yes.
started, I tried to follow you. Then there is Santiago. So I tried to, before jumping into, starting to create content on my own. I was an active consumer. So I tried to follow
Yes.
good people on Twitter. I tried to see like what exactly, so what kind of content do they create? Like why is it different and why does it create value? So it's not like
Hmm.
we are inventing something new, but the idea is to how do you present it in an engaging manner, right? So on Twitter,
Yes.
the attention span is very small, right? So my idea is always, say if I want to talk about something, so there are two things. We can go with very simple post, and then we can talk about something complicated, something you can say which is not so simple, and we try to write threads about
Hmm.
it. So my idea is always to make sure that if something takes like 10 minutes to read in a blog, can I shorten it and put it into a thread? Because I know the attention
Yes.
span on Twitter is less. So can I somehow make it small and still cover everything and help people
Hmm.
understand it, and so that people can do understand it only in like 2 to 3 minutes, right? So
Yes.
this is something that I keep in mind. Like if I can bring down it under the attention span of the user on Twitter, so that is
Yeah.
one idea. And another thing that I do is I try to start early. So to create good content, I think you should also, before writing you should also do a lot of reading as well, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
Definitely.
that is also very important, something that has helped me. And yeah, so these are the two things that I really like. And yeah, if you really worked hard, if you like, uh, I mean, if you have a certain interest in a domain, and then you put a lot of efforts into creating content about it, like
Hmm.
thinking from the perspective of a user, that you have to simplify his life, you have to make his life easier, and you then taking those things in mind, if you try to put your efforts and try to create content, then it is
Yes.
highly likely that it does good.
Yes. I think just from watching what you were doing and from what my own experience has been, the key takeaways are be consistent. You know,
That is true, definitely.
yeah, try to post every day, or maybe pick whatever it is. Maybe it's 3 days a week, but I always do 3 days a week and around the
Exactly.
same time.
Right, that
And
is true.
find a niche or a niche. You know, if I talked about Python and Rust and JavaScript and C++ and all, every language under the sun, I don't think I'd be as popular as if I
Definitely,
focused on just one
definitely. Yeah,
language.
yeah.
So, finding those are like the two key things, and then of course interacting with people other content creators on Twitter. That has helped
Definitely.
me a lot.
Yeah.
I learn a lot from you. I learn a lot from Rodrigo and
Same here.
Santiago.
Yeah, yeah.
I see what works for them and what doesn't work for them, and then I can try it out and see, is my audience slightly different or not? Just stuff like that, and you just learn a lot from all these other people.
Right, 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 right. And also one more thing I wanted to mention, like uh, uh, you should not fall prey to these sometimes a certain kind of content goes viral, and then
Hmm.
you as a content creator, I'm not sure if I should use the word greedy, but people get greedy, and then out of nowhere they just change their niche, right? They were earlier like talking
Hmm.
about core Python, machine learning, and all, and suddenly they start talking about AI tools, right? So this is something
Yes.
that is not sustainable, and I would not encourage anyone who is starting out their journey. Like, so you should stick to what you know, and try to stand out, try to basically create a unique identity for yourself. So that is important.
Yeah. And probably the other thing I would mention would be not just stick with what you know, but also talk about like the new upcoming packages that are coming out. Like a
Definitely.
lot of people interested when something brand new comes out. Is it good or is it bad? You can go find out for them and tell them, well, this is my experience with it. I
I
I
guess
hated
I
it
guess
or I loved it.
Yeah.
you know?
So I get that a lot from your tweets. And it helps us a lot. Like whenever something new comes in and all. So that is there. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the kind of thing that people like a lot as well. So that is a
Yeah.
good suggestion.
Great. Well, anyway, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on my show, Akshay, and I hope you enjoyed your time here, and maybe we
I
can hang out again sometime in the future.
definitely looking forward to more such talks and podcast. And I too had a really great time. And yeah, learning a lot from you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thanks. All right, well, we'll wrap up the show, and I hope you all will come back and join me again at my next episode.
The Python Show.